Spread the fire. Welcome back to SMWX. And today I'm extremely excited and honored to be joined by, I don't even know which order the titles go in. Is it Professor, Advocate? They're becoming too many to list. Thuli Madonsela, who has just delivered her inaugural lecture here at Stellenbosch, where she's taken up a senior chair in the law school. Mum, thanks so much for joining us on SMWX. It's a true honor.
The privilege is all mine. Thank you for this privilege.
I was chuckling during your lecture because you mentioned trolls. And you said that, on social media you had...
I was Sizwe.
You had some experience with these trolls. And, you're actually quite a prominent voice on Twitter as well. What's your view of the Twitter sphere and the way it plays into our democracy? Trolls notwithstanding or notwithstanding?
You had to say that word?
I mean...
okay, let me just explain that. I said young people call these people trolls. I don't know whether that suggests that I also regard them as trolls. And then I accidentally called them trolls, but I apologize and said, no, they're not trolls. They're just people who are sad. But having said that, well, firstly, thank you for the privilege. I think, apart from the fact that Biz is now a friend, and I'm not saying this because I know a co-founder. It's an important platform. And lots of presidents are conducting extremely important conversations on Twitter, because it's one way where you immediately broadcast. For me, actually, Twitter in particular is taking us back to communal society. Because if you think about that, the conversations were Molo Mhlobo Wami and you're screaming, everyone gets to know, and it's an open society. The only disadvantage at the moment is that Twitter does come with also rudeness. When people are sad, they lash out at other people. It's a natural instinct, especially if there's no self-awareness among people. And some of us understand that and you're not affected. And then some of our people are fragile and they take this seriously. And often they even disconnect from their Twitter account just to heal. But for democracy, it's an important platform. For legal education, it's an important platform. For the kind of work that you do, which is getting young people in particular to talk about things, I can't think of a better platform than Twitter. Of course, I know that you also do WhatsApp. Indeed.
No, that's really interesting, because it's always cool to see from the side of the person who's actually using it what it's been like. I mean, there's so much about what you said today that I'd like to touch on, but you're obviously known, I think, primarily for the incredible work that you did as South Africa's public protector at a tempestuous moment in our democratic life, and as being one of the few symbols of public rectitude in that period. And that moment has been etched into so many of our minds for what you did publicly. But I'm always curious to know what it was like behind the scenes of moments like the Nkandla report, or that period when the state capture report was hanging in the balance in the judiciary. What was that like for you, and were there any stories or anecdotes that you can share from that period that maybe you haven't shared publicly, to just give us a texture for being at the center of such important public decisions and moments?
Well, thank you, Sizwe. I would say, for me, the moments that will always stay with me is the support I got from my family, my children, who literally self-appointed themselves as my parents, and therefore they were the ones who were doing the nurturing. And it's so sad as a parent, because you want, and I can imagine you probably do that with your dad and your mom. But as a parent, you don't want your children to be a buffer. I wanted to be the one to cushion them, but they would be the ones who do that. But it's But you're young also, you're taking a battle that's not yours, and you're young, and the pressure, it hits you. So that was that. And then I really was blessed with the team. The interesting thing is that the Power Protector, the core team, I found it there. These are great men and women who are what you call quintessential civil servants. For them, they just want to do the best. These are the people who, if you send them to a complaint, for example, where some lady at the police had been fired whilst on leave, where she was on maternity leave, and then the next thing she gave birth while she had been fired and cut off from medical aid. So they're busy with the case, but here she is, she needs nappies, she needs formula. And Bona and Lesedi and them, they don't call me to say we need money for formula. They take the money from their own pockets, and that kind of camaraderie in the team. That when Nganda breaks, before you try to figure out what is this all about, the team is the one that's worked out about it to say. And this is madness. But why we had that kind of team spirit, it really started on a bad note. I came there working hard based on how they had been taught. The methodology had an emphasis, which was a global approach to ombudsmanship, which is you count how many cases you've done, which is fine. But if that's your sole purpose, this is when you give people a get out of jail free card, and then they're going to do the wrong thing again because they haven't learned a lesson. And so when I changed the system, people were not particularly happy because it also meant less grades. And I remember this one year when I decided they were not going to get their Christmas bonuses.
Oh my.
And I would say to people, my narrative on it is that I got unfollowed, but not on Twitter, but in real life. Because people withdrew. It's the thing that I spoke about today, about when people feel it's unfair. In this particular case, they knew one way of doing business. So for you, having not taken them through a purposive approach and design the reward system with them, it's you versus them. And so they were saying, they were not defiant, but you could see the dejectedness, that you are alone now. And then I met at an ANC conference, I met Edward Kisweta. Incidentally, we just happened to be sitting next to each other, and we're talking about life, leadership, and followership.
This is the current SARS commissioner now.
And he was a total stranger. And then he told the story about how they got followership at ESCOM. It was, you get followership by raising leaders. Because we think you want to be a leader by making everyone else your little zombies. But proper leadership, like Jesus did, is you raise leaders. Because the moment you're going, which is what happened in the Power Protector, when the storm broke, they would be the first to determine what's going to be the strategy. Whereas if you are the only leader here, everyone is the follower, everyone's going to hold their hands and say. But it took that and him saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But what it meant was a purpose-driven approach, and it was amazing. They gave us resources. It was Alexander Forbes at the time. They gave us people to run a process for us called a purpose-driven organization. They get everyone to define the organizational process, the organizational purpose. And the wedding might not be what you entirely want, but you can decide then that you're going to have your wedding and then people will see it as your thing, or you can decide to go with the wedding that captures a little bit of your own imagination, but everyone else's imagination, which is what we ended up with. But what it then did was, based on our purpose statement, which was beyond what is our mandate. The mandate was investigate, report, and take appropriate remedial action. On the other hand, our purpose was really to ensure that people who have been adversely affected by the state get justice. as a way of strengthening constitutional democracy and supporting democracy. So it changed, it flipped it around, because when you then have handled the case, like I spoke about judges, you always have to ask yourself that, have I helped someone vindicate their right? And can I sleep well knowing that justice was done today, and therefore promoting peace in the ecosystem? I would say, yes, those moments where, for example, when the scandal broke that SAPS is about to arrest me for corruption and fraud.
Right.
When I think they called Kalalelo, and Kalalelo calls Oba, and at the stage they don't know what's going on, and it helps when you don't have skeletons, because if you have skeletons, then you're going to say, hey, I'm going to fix this all by myself.
Yeah.
But in the absence of skeletons, I just said to them, here's the people at justice, go get the files, let's look at this. And together we had to get the documents and realize that the guy had fabricated. The truth was there in the documents. And the team got some of the documents from the Mail and Guardian and found that the suggestion that I was about to be arrested for a 1.8 million tender. I mean, having helped the Department of Justice for a period over 11 years, that was the total cost of what it had cost them, because I was always doing cost recovery, because I am from a tradition of doing it because if I had money, I would do it for free. I'm doing it because I want this. I'm doing this because I want that outcome for myself. I'm part of this ecosystem, and it's the kind of justice I want to be surrounded by.
It's interesting to hear, because I think that moment was so focused on you from the media perspective that one can easily forget that there were many people contributing to the office and the excellent work that it did. And it's cool to hear that your recollections are based around what your team did as opposed to what was happening to you at the time.
I was blessed.
Well, I also wonder to myself, like, now we see the State Capture Commission playing out in front of our faces through our screens every day. And there was a time when the very existence of such a commission was at best doubtable. And how do you feel when you see the commission now, and you can trace a lot of, if not the entire commission's work, back to important work that was done in the lead up to this commission, and the investigations into state capture that happened in your tenure?
I honestly, I feel a sense of joy in that my faith in humanity paid off, because to suggest the commission required a certain sense of faith that the idea somehow eventually will gain ground, and secondly that whoever gets appointed will really try to make sure that right prevails.
Yeah.
But I had no guarantee that that was what was going to happen. And again, I'm grateful it has happened. I'm grateful to the team of lawyers and then the staff members, because some of our moves became maverick in that end way. We were basically thrown a whole lot of curveballs, and we had to play catch up fast and move the needle despite those curveballs. The commission might be taking longer than we would want it to, but I think the one thing we should celebrate is the fact that the court of public opinion is as important as the court of law. And personally, I'm not one of those people anyway who are clamoring for people to go to jail. I want accountability. I want redress to the people of South Africa. But as somebody whose culture is steeped in customary law, you will know that there were no jails in this continent. People were rehabilitated where we could see them. And I think we have to rethink actually sending people to jail, which is like the out of sight, out of mind problem solved. It's a difference. Maybe someone is a rapist or a murderer, then you're putting them there for the safety of society and proper quarantine for rehabilitation. For the rest of crimes, I think we have to reflect on it. Yeah.
That's a really interesting view that in some ways is linked to this commission and comes out of that. I heard the chancellor, newly elected chancellor of this university, Justice Cameron, saying something similar about the way that our punishment system works has only served to in some ways reinscribe the logic of apartheid. Do you feel, having occupied important places in justice in our country, that the way we punish is maybe reinforcing some of the past trends?
Certainly. In fact, that's some of the observations made by the justices in S versus Magwanyane, Langa, Mukhoro, and that we have to look at indigenous approaches to justice. That it shouldn't be about being vindictive. It shouldn't be about retaliation. It should be about rehabilitation, reconciliation, and educational. I just think as a society we've been frustrated with crime, corruption, and many things, and as a result we don't look for systemic solutions. We look for transactional solutions that seem to help, but they don't, because, for example, a whole lot of people you send to jail that are normal people, when they get to the other side, they're hardened. I do think we should review the criminal justice system and look at how do we use the principles of Ubuntu to see and recognize the Muntu who has wronged us, and see how can we rehabilitate them. Another thing that is, for me, problematic is in society is people who have wronged us, for example, with corruption. I think as a society we have to decide at what stage can they be rehabilitated. This whole thing of saying, if you stole from us, or you were involved in something corrupt, let's take somebody like Tony Ngeni, who was found to have done something wrong, to then say that person can't be seen as rehabilitated and can't hold office. You create a reproduction then of the wrong, because if society won't have me in positions of rectitude, as you mentioned, I still have to exist, and you throw me to the dark side. And I think a whole lot of people who in the last 10 years have fallen into the dark side. It was in their own assessment, there was nowhere else to go.
Well, we've spoken a bit about what it was like to be at the center of the storm, let's say, and some of your reflections from that period, but I can imagine that just as stepping into the storm is difficult, stepping out of the storm can also be difficult. And you're at Stellenbosch now in a prestigious chair and have some time to reflect. What's it been like stepping out of that storm and reflecting a little bit outside of the everyday movement of politics and major crises and big reports?
For me, it's been a grace and gratitude. I mean, this university came just out of the blue. I had other offers, much more high profile and probably much more paying, but based on what I was thinking, what I had seen, what I had heard about the people versus democracy and social justice being the conflict between democracy and the people, it was clear to me that democracy is going down the drain and we need to anchor it outside government, some of us. And So when I got this was wonderful. But what helped me with the cooling off period was I ended up at Harvard. I was invited to come and teach at Oxford for a year, and then a friend said, "You mad? Don't go to Oxford, go to Harvard."
Yeah.
So I invited myself to Harvard. It helped because then I had a year of being in a totally different environment. We were the has-beens. What do they call us? What did we call ourselves? They used to be important.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of these guys were
Yeah.
former company executives and lots of money, but less power because once you're out of the system. But we enjoyed that. I think it was a lovely system because all of us had been and we were finding a new meaning in life. That society taught us that you get your identity from getting good grades at school, good job, and at some stage you get your identity from your title, and that taught us to reflect and accept that we are valuable and everyone else around us is valuable, and the title is okay when you've earned it and when you can use it for the good of society, but you're not the title, and just because you don't have it. But I sort of miss sometimes the action, and now coming to academia, I took it because I thought it was going to be easy. Because I'd been in a junior academic.
Yeah.
But I must tell you, Sizwe, that it's hard to be an academic. Of course, it's not the same thing as being a public protector, a police commissioner, or the president of a country where every decision you make can, affect people's lives. But the students are an important community, and there's a sense of responsibility. Diane can tell you about how I Tatazela when I really prepare, because for me I'm a new academic and therefore it's not doing the same thing over, and you have to read a lot because you think about these young minds that you are going to work with, that you should give them the best deal possible. But it's been a wonderful journey. I love engaging with young people. It's a dual teaching process because I learn a lot from them. Particularly, we have a class, a constitutional law class, which is final year law students. The questions these young ones ask, they force you to go to places you've never been to in terms of your own of design, of societal design. So it expands your world. And then we give them assignments, and they come with their own then solutions to things. And Prof. Sandy Levenberg and Prof. Hio designed this course in such a way that really it's all about accountability, which for me, in the last few years of my public life, was important. Now you have young lawyers that are working on accountability, and we teach them about different forms of accountability, and we're hoping that, like yourselves, when they go out there into society, they're not just going to be job seekers or job creators. They're going to be nation builders, because now they know that whatever they do impacts the ecosystem they're going to live in.
Well, just finally, to come to your inaugural lecture, because you focused on a number of fascinating concepts, but I was really interested in this prominence that you gave to the legal principle of rationality, which sounds great, but you say has in some ways frustrated other constitutional principles and ideals in the way that it's been applied to various judgments. So to end off, can you take us through how you think this question of legal rationality might be impeding other elements of our constitution that deserve equal weight?
Wonderful. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that. Rationality on its own is a fair idea. I mean, legal reasoning generally has at its core rationality. But the problems with the approach to rationality is that it becomes now the touchstone for what is just administrative action. And what has happened is that two pathways for holding government accountable for administrative action have emerged. One is the parja one, and then one is the non-parja one. And on the non-Paja one, they would go for legality, and the core of it is rationality. And the problem is everyone brings their own notions of what's rational. And then you use your imagination as a judge and your power as a judge. Like I use the Prince of Egypt thing, where Ramesses says, you are what I say you are. So a judge then decides government has wronged a person, or a state institution has wronged a person, and a judge says nobody was wronged. And then two things happen there. You crushing the spirit of the person who was wrong, and obviously that person might not take lying it down. Next time they wanna go and burn a train or something, that person will be first in line. But the worst thing is the systemic impact of those decisions. Government learns right and wrong from these decisions. If I string you along and somebody says I don't need to fix it, I will string along somebody else. But I might also fail to quality assure other people and give financial assistance to people who don't deserve it, and that's a systemic impact. So that's the rationality part. And I think the way forward for me is the fault in the reasoning is there's one constitution that says everyone, not some, everyone deserves just administrative action. And that administrative action has to be lawful, reasonable, fair, and you have to be given reasons for decision. It honestly baffles me. How could we as a nation think some people will then deserve to be subjected to a test where those who hold public power and control over resources are only asked one question, rationality. And if you lucky, you go to this other part where they're going to ask you the full test, which at the core of it is that heading in section 33, which is just administrative action. And I think for me, this needs to be sorted out, and I don't think it has to be haphazard, a 25-year review by the judges themselves, because I think they're all good people. It's just what has happened is that everyone has just been doing the best they can without thinking about what exactly is the impact. And I think if they do their own 25-year review and look at the impact, they will see a picture that emerges. Then they will weigh it against the approach in S versus Makwanyane and the approach in Daniels versus Kribante, and say, but we were supposed to decide in a purposeful way, in a purposive way, and we were supposed to do a balancing. We were supposed to look at the impact on all of the rights, and we're supposed to recognize the humanity of everyone, not because they're big government institution with a lot of money, but because they're humans. That institution deserves also equal consideration, but so does the small Gogo Dlamini. So you need both being treated with equal consideration, but with an eye to what is proper government? What is proper governance in state affairs? What are you teaching government? And why are you doing that? It's an impact on trust in democratic institutions, and therefore ultimately vestedness in democracy. And at the end of the day, it has implications for respect for the rule of law and peace.
Well, Professor Advocate Madonsela, Mama, thank you so much for gracing us with your thoughts on law, on justice, and some stories of your life as public protector. Thanks for joining SMWX.
It's been a privilege, Sizwe, and congratulations again on your platform.
Thank you so much. Ayeye. Thanks for watching the content. Like, share, and subscribe on all platforms. smwx.co.za to join the WhatsApp channel. And let's build a new conversation for a new generation. Ayeye.